Myself, Sivaramakrishnan, and I'm working as a product support engineer for the past 4.5 years in Bistock 360. Me and Pravina, if you were using Bistock 360, we have conversed with you all via emails and demos, best practices, and even as well as customer calls. We are looking forward for face-to-face interactions with you all at the booth outside. So I'm privileged to introduce Divya Swarnkar. Many of us are aware of Divya. She's been with us from the day one of integration events. So she's a program manager in enterprise platform services teams driving Microsoft integration strategy and migration of integration services to cloud. So she's been with Microsoft for the past 12 plus years. She's focused on enterprise integrations using Azure platform apps. And let's hear what she has on enterprise integration logic apps. Thank you.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a nice break and you are well energized and ready back for the session. So enterprise integration. In this session, we put our enterprise hat on and talk about all the cool stuff that we are doing. How does it fit in together to build enterprise solutions? So this is less about individual features and more about how do we put them together to build an end-to-end story. And while enterprises have lots of characteristics, something that I want to touch on, which is common, is that they have diverse and large network of personas and applications. And when you add a size element to it, it reflects the size of the enterprises. The bigger the enterprises, the more diverse and large their network of applications and personas is. And that inherently adds the complexity to their whole businesses and the processes. The other aspect of these enterprises is that they want to embrace and lead innovation. They want to make changes so that they are not just carrying out the usual business, but they are adopting the new technologies and making innovations before their competition does it. And as I mentioned, that there is inherently an element of complexity because of the scale, because of the sheer volume of transactions, because of the sheer number of customers that they have, that they cannot modernize, they cannot do innovation all at once. It has to be incremental. And that's what is the goal of enterprises is actually our goal. We want to make sure that whatever decisions we are making, whatever product improvements we are doing, the strategy that we use, we are in this together. Whatever is your goal, we want to make sure that we help you accomplish that goal. So with that in mind, the whole idea with Logic Apps platform is that we want to provide you all the tools, all the capabilities so that you can do faster and agile, not just development, your whole process is faster and agile, as also mentioned in the keynote today, so that you can incrementally modernize your business in a secure and compliant manner, and our platform meets all your scalability needs. And to further that, we also want to provide you with all the services, with all the capabilities so that you can leverage all the intelligent aspects of the cloud services, the AI, machine learning, everything on your data and make even improved decisions for your business. So I want to showcase some of the, in 30 minutes it's impossible to cover all of the things that we offer for enterprises. So I want to showcase through a scenario. While it's hypothetical, I think many of you probably here would relate to it, where I'm taking an example of a grocery store who's incurring a lot of losses because the storage units in their grocery stores often malfunction, and by the time they realize about the errors, it is too late. They've already the groceries are spoiled, or they cannot transfer it to a different unit, and several other things. Also, they cannot take any corrective action, and they cannot even schedule maintenance right away because they don't know what the problem is. So let's see how we can, through some modernization, through some innovation, how we can probably solve some aspects of this issue. So one of the things Contoso Grocery Store is going to do is that they are going to install IoT sensor in all those refrigerators so that they can get notification, they can get telemetry on how the storage units are working, and then based on for certain scenarios there will be automatic corrective actions that will be taken, and for certain other scenarios we'll just streamline the process so that the turnaround time is quicker. So in this case, we are going to dive into two scenarios. In the first case, we are going to use IoT, where I'm going to showcase a simulated device which is basically sending the telemetry data, which we'll be receiving in the Logic app. And based on the data that we received, we'll have to go through some transformation before we notify the team to take the corrective actions, and also create a maintenance order in SAP. So the other point that I want to highlight here is that to modernize, the modernization or innovation cannot happen radically, right? You want to leverage your existing resources as well. So here, which is why like we are using SAP, probably a lot of companies here use SAP for their supply chain processes, interacting with suppliers, and here we are going to use the plant maintenance module in SAP and do all our device management through there. Once the maintenance order is created in SAP through some business process, we are going to create an equipment change request, which then goes through another set of transformation and is sent to Dynamics 365, which is going to be used as our work order management solution. And finally, we notify the maintenance team to carry out the work order. So let's jump into the demo. So just to start with the IoT device that I have here, it's a simulated device. As you can see, these red dots, these are indicating the errors in the condenser fan. We also have another rule which is on high temperature alert. So if the temperature is higher, there can be corrective actions that can be taken automatically by the Logic app without even involving any human, without any human intervention. In case of condenser fan error, probably the device needs a replacement, and we are going to focus on the first on condenser fan error scenario, where we actually invoke the process to do the device replacement. As you can see, I have a action here. It is basically showing my Logic app, which is listening to the rule that is defined here. Let's move to the Logic app. So this is the Logic app. Here I have a trigger, which is an IoT central trigger, which is listening to the device set that I have in my IoT central. And of the two rules, I'm actually focusing on the condenser fan error rule here. Anytime there is an event, there is a telemetry data from my IoT device, this rule is fired, and I want to get more information about the device. So I'm also using an action that is also provided by the IoT central connector to actually get more data about the device that triggered this event. As a next step, I'm doing some enrichment on the data. So using Compose, I'm actually combining the data from both the previous steps, as well as I'm also adding some more information such as location and tracking data to the event that I'm creating. And then all of this is in JSON, while SAP expects data in XML. So as a next step, what we are doing is we are basically transforming the data we have in JSON into the XML format. The source XML for this can be generated from the data I have here. That is simple. But the destination XML for this is something that you have to pull from your SAP system. So for that, we provide an operation, the SAP connector, while I'm only using the send operation here, but the SAP connector also provides an operation to generate the schemas directly from your SAP, and you can leverage that schema, use the EIP tools that we provide with Visual Studio, which actually comes with a mapper to provide your source schema, your destination schema, and with which you can actually use your maps. So I already created the map which I'm referencing here. This map is stored in integration account, which basically is the secure container for all of our EDI artifacts, and it also backs EDI processing for most of the EDI actions. So here I'm using that schema, and finally using the SAP connector, I'm sending the transformed XML to my SAP system. So before I move further, I do want to mention that last year at Integrate, when we came here, I did the demo for SAP as well, and at that time SAP was in private preview. And today I'm very glad to share with you that last month at Sapphire, which is one of the premier SAP conference, we announced the GA of SAP Connector. So SAP Connector is now GA with capability with bidirectional support for sending and receiving data, as well as to generate the schemas. One more capability that we have added recently is for SNC support. So SNC is Secure Network Communication, that is supported by SAP to actually extend the security of your SAP integrations, where you can actually not just use basic authentication, you can actually use single sign-on authentication and also encrypt your data, which by default is not encrypted, using any external security product that you want. So let's just going to refresh this and look at one of the recent runs here. Since the data is simulated, I'm automatically receiving the data. I've set the frequency so that I receive this data more frequently, which is probably not a real world scenario, but to showcase I wanted to do that. And here every step is executed. You see the execution times, and eventually the data goes to SAP in the format, in the IDOC, XML IDOC that SAP expects. Coming back to the other side, now with this indicates that this was submitted to SAP. You probably have a business process in SAP, but ultimately the goal is that there was a maintenance order request created for the device. We sent all the device data. So now from SAP we are calling a BAPI to do an equipment change, and I already have this SAP client opened here with the information entered here. So I'm just going to execute this, and this execution actually triggers my other logic app. So this is the logic app where I'm receiving the message that was sent from SAP, and I'm using the same program ID. The RFC that I used is mapped to the program ID that I've used here. The data that I received from SAP is in XML format, whereas I want to send it to Dynamics, which means that I have to convert it from XML to JSON. And I'm using Liquid for that purpose here. Again, I've created a map which converts my XML into JSON and sends, once I've converted the data, I'm pulling the properties that I'm interested in into the next step and sending all this data into Dynamics to create the work order. We also want to notify, as I mentioned, when there is a work order created in Dynamics, we also want to notify people in the field to do the appropriate maintenance update, and so that they can have all these details. So if we look at the execution of this logic app, let's see if we have a recent run. So yeah, this is what I triggered from SAP. We have a successful run here. If we look at the run, we should see the data in 3 places. We should see a work order being created in Dynamics. So let's refresh this. All right, so this is the one I just created. It is open and unscheduled, which means this has to be worked upon. Let's look at the Teams, where I have now, on Teams, you see the message that we had sent from that logic app, where you can now instantly notify people, your field maintenance crew, to actually act upon this issue with all the details on the work order and the tracking information about it. And one more thing that I want to highlight, which I actually missed to show you before, is that along with doing this integration, most of the enterprises want to manage their integrations, right? So We push all the telemetry data from logic apps into log analytics. I enabled it. I was also sending some of the properties, some of the business properties that I'm interested in to further track this data, to further track this transaction into OMS. So if for a lot of enterprises, their DevOps doesn't have access to the Azure directly, but they have access to log analytics and other monitoring systems. So you can actually, while we are sending rich information into log analytics, you have capability to augment that information with something that is called tracked properties. So if we look at log analytics, so this is my logic app that was receiving the data, and so you can see all the details here, the run ID, the tracking ID and everything. And here are the tracked properties that I was adding. So I'd shown you only for one action, but you can actually put tracked properties in every action in your logic app, and we actually combine all of that and show you the tracked properties for that entire run. So this is very useful if you want to do any kind of search on your processes based on some business identifiers. All right. So how many of you actually can associate with this kind of scenario here, right? So here, while I think I again want to highlight that while doing this kind of modernization, we are leveraging the existing systems that we have. We are leveraging SAP, we are leveraging Dynamics, and at the same time, we are using some modern technologies like IoT, like other things. So if we look at the feature map here, in order to accomplish this scenario, we have used a lot of features that are provided by Logic App to build this end-to-end scenario. We used Visual Designer, which helps in faster development. We've used several connectors in this. We've used a lot of mapping capabilities, lot of data processing capabilities to achieve this scenario. And it doesn't, while what we did was this, where we interacted with different personas, we integrated with devices, we integrated with IoT, and we had a bunch of, we had our application network, and this doesn't have to stop here. The next step would be probably to add more intelligence to what we have built, use AI and ML capabilities to further augment the data that you have received and take smarter decisions and improve the business. What we had just seen was all running in shared cloud, but companies have needs where they want security, where they want isolation, or if you have very high volumes, you probably want to achieve economies of scale, then ICE is something which you can choose. And in that case, all of this starts running into the integration service environment. So let's quickly talk about some new improvements that we've done very recently. Firstly, we have improved the limits for integration account from 500 to 1000 for all the EDI artifacts. We have released a new version of ACE2 connector, which is a core action, and this is we have a strategy where we want to make sure that our platform is scalable and performant for the needs of enterprises, and this is a step towards that. Today, when you run our connectors, we have Logic App runtime and we have connector runtime. So connectors execute in connector runtime, and by making AS2 as a core action, we can now run it in the Logic App runtime itself. So it is running closer to the runtime. It does not have to make any calls, any HTTP calls to the connector runtime. We have more control on the Logic App runtime, which is why we can make these actions more performant, which is why this will not have any limit on the timeouts. Can we do this for everything? No, because it doesn't make sense, right? It can be done for those scenarios where you're not making any outbound calls, where you're not calling any external services. So we can do it for things which are running natively, which can be run within the context of Logic App runtime. We have also made improvements to monitoring, where we added batch trigger and action, but the tracking was missing for them. Recently we've added the tracking for them, which allows you to monitor the batch activity, what the release criteria is, and you can actually correlate the items in the batch with the batch that is being found. We've also recently added an ability where once you resubmit the run, you can actually look into the data in log analytics to find out what the source of that run was. So which run did you click to resubmit that? So these are the recent improvements, and today we are making an announcement, which is the public preview for Rosetta Net connector. Anybody here is using it or would want to use it? Okay, cool. There are a few people here. So Rosetta Net is another addition to our B2B family of connectors. It is little different from the other B2B connectors because of the complexity of the pips, which is what I'm showing on the right side, where it's not just a send or receive, but it's a choreography where a business transaction is complete only when a request that has been sent is acknowledged through a signal, through a confirmation, and then another signal is sent back to the customer. So we have tried very hard to balance the complexity, to abstract this complexity from the user, as well as give you all the flexibility and control in just as we do with other B2B actions. And hopefully you'll be able to appreciate it when you use it. The other thing that we are doing, again to our theme where we want to help you to move your code faster to production, is that we are releasing templates for both decode and encode of Rosetta Net. So all you have, as when you create a new logic app, you will see the templates, you save the templates, do some changes based on your configuration, and you are good to go. So the whole idea is that you have a blueprint, you have a pattern that at least can get you started, and then you make changes that are very specific to your business. Before moving to that, I want to quickly demo Rosetta Net. So as I was mentioning that we have pushed in templates for this. So if you go on the portal, this is a new logic app. You see this when you create a new logic app. So here is the list of templates. You go down and you will see two templates here. One is for decode, the other is for encode. Just click on the template, select the template, and save it. Now one step that I already took care here is that I associated this logic app with integration account, because all the partner management, all the artifacts will be coming from integration account. But now you have a logic app with your decode, which then decodes the message, and to send the signal back, it encodes and sends the signal back. Likewise, if you were doing okay. Anyways, let me show the demo here. So as I was mentioning integration account, one of the things that Rosetta Net needs is pip configurations. So with Rosetta Net release, you will see a new tile in integration account where you would have to provide the pip configs, and those will be referenced in your agreements. Again, we've tried to make it super simple, where all you have to do is create, do an addition, select the pip that you want to use, and just hit OK, and then it will generate the JSON corresponding to the pip. So it has all the default values in it. You only have to update it if you want to go change the default values. Let's have a quick look at how it will look when you execute it. So here is a logic app using Rosetta Net, where I'm doing an encode, which means I'm sending a Rosetta Net message to my partner. All right. So there is a do until loop here, because as I was mentioning, it's a choreography, which means after sending the request, it's actually going to wait for the response to come back for this to complete. We can see in the receive logic app that we have received the request here. This is my logic app where I'm actually going to send the acknowledgement back to the to the logic app so that it can complete this activity. What's happening behind the scenes here is that we actually have an active session going on, which is waiting for the signal and acknowledgement from the partner. All of this is done, the mechanism for correlation is pip instance identity. That is what correlates all the messages in the transaction. So once we get the message back, we look at the pip instance identity and then update the session and complete it. So we got the message back and this completes the whole scenario. So let's talk about the stuff that's coming really soon. And by really soon, I mean it could be as early as end of this month or probably next month. So we are going to provide you an ability to leverage your gateways across multiple gateways across subscriptions. So this is a problem that a lot of enterprises shared with us, that they have different business units in their organizations and they don't want to get into the maintenance of these data gateways, multiple data gateways to be used across subscriptions. So we, with this, you would be able to pick a subscription in your tenant and then pick the gateway in that subscription. We have done GA for SAP Connector, but we are not done yet. We are making more and more improvements to it and also adding new features to it. So the first one that we have done is we've heard feedback again from customers that it is painful to create the namespace URI that needs to go with the SAP Connector. So we are now introducing an ability to search IDOCs and BAPIs simply by your object name, and the rest of the parameters would be pre-populated based on the IDOC or BAPI that you're going to select. Next, today from SAP to Logic Apps, you can send only single transactions. We are going to add the packet support so that you can actually send a group of SAP IDOCs back to Logic App and you'll be able to process them. IDOC TRFC confirm. So a lot of organizations have a stringent requirement that they cannot have duplicates sent to their SAP system. Today, we by default under the cover do a confirmation of the transaction. We are splitting that step so that you've sent something to SAP and then in a different step, users now would have to confirm the transaction so that if there are any network glitches or other errors, you have an ability to retry without worrying about sending duplicates. Your message will be committed only once. Something else that is coming soon is GA of SFTP SSH connector. Again, this is we improved the limits for SFTP connector, but one of the things that we heard from customers was that we were using a 50 MB chunk size, and depending on your configuration, your network latencies, for some of the customers that was too high, it was timing out. Then there are other customers for whom, like if we chose 10 MBs, but it is too low for some other customers because then the whole transfer would take a lot of time. So we decided that we cannot, to target every customer, we'll have to go with adaptive chunking, so that based on your network latencies, based on the configuration of your server, we would adapt the chunk size accordingly, so everyone gets the best results. We are working on that. We are very close to completion, and which is what is keeping the GA of this connector. SAP Connector, we will be releasing SAP Connector for ICE, same capability, same functionality in ICE as well. But yeah, the advantage will be you would not need any data gateway in ICE. So you can directly connect to your systems as they will all be in the same VNet. Now, stuff that is coming soon, probably end of the calendar year, is rough timelines here. We will be releasing EIP tools for VS 2019, so that allows you to create your maps, your flat file schemas. We have raised the limits for integration account. Now it's 1,000. So with that, it's become very important that we provide some UI improvements so customers can do operations on integration accounts seamlessly, such as searching through their artifacts, filtering, sorting, and all those things. We want to build more core connectors. As I mentioned, that we are, you can see several times improved performance with core connectors. So some of the services where it fits the bill, we are going to do that. We've already done it for AS2, we'll do it for other EDI connectors such as X12. Service bus would be coming next. We are committed to improving performance of the platform so that we meet all the needs of the enterprise customers, and we will be doing more performance improvements in the next couple of months for our connectors like SQL, Oracle, SFTP. Okay, so future roadmap. I think this is a slide where you have all the opportunity to influence what we do. So this is something that we've been thinking. We want to do it, but we cannot do everything. So if you are here and if you want to put your finger on something here, please come to us and talk to us and let us know what is it that you need, and it will help us in our prioritization. So we want to expand, as always, we want to extend to more industry verticals such as healthcare and others. We want to write more connectors. We want to write more enterprise connectors such as Oracle EBS, NetSuite, ODBC. And since we cannot do all of that, we also are thinking how we can collaborate with the community of developers we have, with the community of partners, with our customers, to basically do this together with them. And one of the ideas we have been thinking is to provide a connector marketplace. I think we have already taken a step towards it, where we have open sourced some of the connectors. So this is something we are thinking about. No commitment yet though. Configuration store. This is also again a very common ask, where people do not want to make, they want to store configuration and they want to retrieve it in a performant manner without making any external calls. So we are thinking about providing a configuration store which you can leverage, which you can utilize from your logic apps through simple expressions. Integration account. Devs queue for integration account. This is something again in discussions where customers who are using standard integration account want to control the price and do not want to pay the same price, and also do not need the same kind of capabilities in their dev or test environment. So this is again something that we are considering and might come up. DR for integration account. We already provide some capability for active passive DR for integration account using EDI connectors, where you can actually use the connections in AS2 and X12 and pull in your state from one integration account and push it to another. It's somewhat complex and involved, and we want to simplify it and provide this as a first class experience, where with simple steps you can actually choose your geo replication region, and we do the heavy lifting and replicate all the state in there. Monitoring, we want to extend more our capabilities more. As AIS, as Azure Integration Services, most of, other than logic apps, all other services are pushing data to app insights, and we've heard customer feedback that they want to build application map and see what happens end to end to their applications using app insights. So this is another area where we are committed to investing. We have some dependencies on product teams like app insights, and we are trying to sort that out. So I think this is all I have. Once again, we really value your feedback, and just to reiterate, your goals are our goals. So help us make our goals, provide your feedback, talk to us, and thank you.
Cove.co